Welcome to NightCap Live. I'm Dan Dunn. Tonight on the show, I'm going to be drinking Singani 63. Already had some. With director Steven Soderbergh, who's made a slew of iconic films and TV shows, including Traffic, Erin Brockovich, Oceans 11 through 23. What else? The Laundromat, Out of Sight, Contagion. No, do that one now. I'm telling you, don't do it. Again, Steven's got his own spirits brand. It's called Singani 63. Singani being the national liquor of Bolivia, 63 being the decibel level I screamed at while I watched them remove Gwyneth Paltrow's scalp in Contagion. Again, don't go there now. It's too real. Watch Magic Mike and get lost in the carefree splendor of Channing Tatum's abs. As always on the show, we invite you to leave comments and questions. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of them for Steven. We want to hear about what Steven really wants to get into talking about Singani as well, but I know you're going to have questions about movies. So right down below, you see the comment thing. That's where you make it happen. That's where the action happens here. As we do a giveaway every week on this show, we do a giveaway. We give away a Flaviar membership, premium drinks club. You get a quarterly a box, and it's got a bottle of spirits in there, and magic dust, and sometimes gold doubloons. But this week we're going to be giving away not only that Flaviar membership, but a very special gift from Steven Soderbergh himself. But I'm going to let him reveal what that gift is when we bring him on in just a few minutes. So here's how you're going to win that prize. And maybe the Flaviar membership will be one prize and Steven's thing will be another. Maybe it'll be both. I don't know. Okay, this is the contest. Steven's made a lot of movies over a long and storied career. I want you to name the top 5. Why am I holding myself? I'm so alone. The top 5 characters in all of Steven Soderbergh's filmography, the top 5 characters in his movies, the most memorable ones. 5. Steven's going to pick the winner with my input, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll just do it himself. He's the man. He's the director. He's in charge. And he is with us right now on NightCap Live. Mr. Steven Soderbergh, how are you, man?
I'm good. It's good to see you, Dan, even though it's virtual.
You know, it's better than what I'm normally looking at, which is the void. I just stare into the void all day long. And but thanks for coming on, man. And I want to immediately raise a toast with you.
Here we go. Yeah.
Cheers. What is the? Is there a national way to how to say cheers in Bolivia?
Salud. Yeah.
Salud. Okay. Salud.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Singani. I want to get into that right away. Tell us your story. How did Singani come into your life?
Well, I consider myself a fairly committed drinker, professional drinker. And so when we began on the Che films, I was given a gift at the startup party of production of a bottle of Singani. And I asked the person who gave it to me, our Bolivian casting director, what this was, like what the story was. And he said, this is the national spirit of Bolivia, and it's been around for 500 years. And he sort of gave me the 2-sentence version. And I said, well, how do you like to drink it? And he said, well, I just drink it on the rocks. And I go, well, let's pop it open. And after the second, I had a first drink very quickly, and then I had a second drink very quickly. And then I sought him out at this party, and I said, okay, I need to know more about this, because I'm typically a vodka person, but I'm feeling like I've got to call vodka on the phone and say I've met someone else. So I want backstory. When vodka goes, who? I want to be able to describe like who this other spirit is, and I was just hooked immediately.
What was it about? What was it about Singani that got you? What was it about that flavor?
Well, it's kind of it had actually kind of a 3-act structure. The first act being the bouquet of it. Like it has this very distinct floral bouquet. Just you can just smell it even before it gets anywhere near you, and it's very appealing, very approachable. Then Act 2 is you actually taste it, and it's very active on the palate. You're getting all these different notes. I've had people compare it to so many different spirits. Some people are like, oh, it's like a tequila, and somebody else is like, no, it's actually like a gin. And so it's very active, and some people have said, oh, I get like a peppery quality, and then you swallow. And as a vodka drinker, I was accustomed to what I called the second swallow, which is you're drinking an 80 proof alcohol. And when you do that straight, there's a second swallow where you've got to like get it down. And that's just the price of entry into the end zone. Yeah. And this thing just vanished. Like it just vanished. It went, you swallowed it, and there was no burn. There was no sort of residual ouch. And that's why I grabbed this person by their lapels and said, well, wait a minute, tell me more about this, and tell me more about how for the next 6 months of shooting, you are going to supply me with this spirit that you've just told me is not exported outside of Bolivia. We were starting the shoot in Spain, then we went to Puerto Rico, then we went to Mexico, and then we were going to end in Bolivia. And I said, I can't, this is 6 months. Yeah, like this is 6 months of shooting. You've got to figure out a way to organize a mule train to supply me with this, or I'm not going to make it. And so we figured out a way to get Singani to us everywhere we went. And by the end of it, I had a lot of people on the production who were saying, why don't you, we love it, you love it, why don't you figure out a way to bring this to the US? Because it had never been exported before.
Well, when you alluded to earlier, I think you nailed it. The flavor profile of the Singani, I think for me kind of lives, at the intersection of gin, tequila, a little rum in there too, like a little light rum, because I'm getting that sweetness that you get from a light rum. There's an earthiness to it that I think is more akin to tequila as well. But it really is delicious. And as I said earlier, it's so versatile. I've got that neat one. I've got it on the rocks. I made a margarita with it here, and real simple. I just did it with the Singani, some lime juice, and some agave nectar, and it's freaking delicious. Yeah.
Well, this is something we discovered not by accident, but it's sort of the process of trying to bring any spirit to market. When we started in January 2014, it took that long for me to get both the license to become an importer and then figure out how to even bring a brand to market, which I had no experience in. So we started by taking it around to hardcore mixologists, people who were known to be at the absolute top of their industry, people like Jim Meehan, and at the time, Sasha Petrovsky, Alex Day, and
Sasha Petrovsky, Rizal Coast, late Sasha.
And we were asking them, like, well, what do you think? And what do you think we should do with it? And they were the ones that told us, this has got a lot of range. Like, I've been working with it. I've pushed it this way. I've pushed it that way. I really think your narrative, if you're going to try and sell this brand, instead of attaching yourself to one specific drink, I think your narrative, even though it's more complicated, should be, this is the most versatile base spirit that you're ever going to encounter. Like you can make so many things with this. And what they were saying was, you're not just replacing it. In many instances, it's an enhancement of a classic cocktail. It's not.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a poor man's replacement. It's actually enhancing, because of its inherent qualities, that, you know, traditional cocktail that we all thought we knew, and now has like another spin on it. So we really took that to heart, and that's how we've tried to sort of present it to people. But, you know, wow, this business. This is a really fascinating.
Well, you've been smart about this though, because
I have, because
you took it to the people, to the bartenders, right? And I think a definite advantage that you had, beyond obviously it being a great spirit, is that its lack of accessibility makes it certainly appealing to people in the craft cocktail community, because I think that they're naturally repelled by things that are too big, too accessible, too mainstream. And something like this, I got to figure a lot of bartenders, when they got wind of this, went, shit. I remember I was with Steven in San Francisco a year or two ago, and we were going around to the bars and that had Singani, and there was a level of enthusiasm, not only from those bartenders, which is so important. Because if they're not selling your product, it's just like when someone's making a movie. I mean, when you make a movie, Steven, the word of mouth is such a huge thing, you know? Oh, what's everybody watching? Oh, I just streamed The Laundromat on Netflix. Let me check that out. But especially so in the cocktail world, if the bartender's behind it, he's going to push it. And you need that to happen in order for the thing to take off.
No, you're right. And what's crucial, I think, to any brand, but especially a brand like Singani, which is, you know, small and independent and, you know, trying to navigate its way through a very competitive landscape. When you go to the kind of people that we're talking about, whether it's Ivy Mix or Jim Meehan, you know, there are two things that are a factor to them, and one is the sort of authenticity of the spirit itself. Like they want to know the provenance of the thing that you're showing them. Like, well, where did this come from, and how is it made, and what is the history of it? And the other thing is, in my case, they want to know what my intentions are. They want to know why I got into this. They you know, that's an important part of the narrative for them. And I knew, even though I didn't know anything about this industry, I knew enough going in from my day job that authenticity matters. Like, if people think that your reason for doing something is suspect, you're already on your heels. And so the good news was, I think they saw how much I love this spirit, that even if it never went anywhere, I was going to figure out a way to get enough of it on a boat to the United States that I could drink it.
You never would run out.
No, that, like, at the end of the day, if I had enough for me and my friends, like, that was going to make me happy, and everything else is sort of the cherry on top. Like, and I knew that I would just have to be consistent over time to show people this isn't a joke. Like,
would you say there was a natural suspicion in the bar community, because you are a person of note, and there are a lot of celebrities in the spirits game and the wine game as well, and maybe not all of them are in it because they are so passionate about it. They might be in it because they're passionate about making money, you know. And
you read those stories of celebrity brands being valued at X amount of dollars and being sold and resold.
about this without mentioning your buddy. I mean, the sort of the standard here for most people is Clooney. Clooney and Randy Gerber, of course, started Casamigos Tequila, and a few years later, they sold it for $1 billion. You know, and I think probably a lot of people in the entertainment business went, shit.
Well, look, I can only say that George knows how angry I am because I remind him every time I see him. The good news is it's a good product. Like, it's good. It's good. So I'm happy for him because it's good and good for him. And the other thing is Randy's brother, Scott, you know, because Randy, when he became, you know, the owner of a spirit, had to divest himself from all of his
bars.
Yeah, exactly. Scott is somebody I went to as soon as I knew this was real and I was going to be coming to market. Scott is somebody that I went to seek advice, and he was incredibly helpful to me about the business and about how a brand needs to position itself in order to succeed. And he's put us in all of his accounts. Like, Scott has been a real friend to the brand before we did anything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, all I can say I think that's it's a sexy story when brands get sold for that kind of money. And I can only say that my intention has always been to convince people that this is a new base spirit, that if you have a bar at home and you have rum and vodka and tequila and gin, like, that you need to also have Singani. Like, that has been my honest belief. And that secondly, I didn't get in this business to get bought out. I got in this to make this work and to turn as many people as possible onto Singani. Like, there's no scenario in which some company comes in, pays me money, and I go, thanks,
see you later.
Yeah, no, that I'm like, you know, I'm still writing copy for posts, you know, that we put up for Singani. Like, this, I'm bound to this brand in a way that doesn't allow for a scenario in which I'm not controlling what happens to it. Would I like a partner to help me push this out in a bigger way? Of course. But will I enter into a situation in which I still don't have creative control over the brand? No. This is something I've been working. Like I said, it's now we're shooting in 2007. I made the deal with Casa Royale, our supplier, in 2008. So, you know, I'm 12 years in.
You're into this thing.
Yeah.
I want to continue down this path, but I just realized we should probably show people what the other prize is that we're giving away at the end of the show. Can you show? We already given away the Flaviar membership. What's the other prize we're going to give away?
So, what I have here, you're only going to be able to see a piece of it.
I'm waiting for you to fall off the chair.
All right, so that's you're getting a little bit of that.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah. So this is a French 2001 poster. It is linen backed, which anybody who's into these things will know that's a serious thing. It's been sitting in my office. I was trying to think of something special to offer to anybody who's taken the time to look at us drinking.
This is an incredible prize.
Well, given my history with 2001, which is pretty significant, including posting a recut of the movie that the Kubrick estate immediately posted a cease and desist order with Warner Brothers to take down. I have a very long checkered history with this movie. It's a really beautiful poster. Anybody who's either into art or movies will be very happy to have this. And if you're desperate, it can fetch a pretty good price.
It's better. If I see this thing on eBay, I'm coming after you. Now, again, how you can win this is Steven's made a lot of movies over his career. The 5 best or most memorable characters from a Steven Soderbergh movie. Steven will be the ultimate judge of when we get the prize entries. Just put it in the comment thread. And by the way, we got a ton of comments coming in. Yvonne Robaledo on Facebook said, "How did you end up choosing the distillery who was going to make Singani, considering there are various Singani houses in Terroir?" Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Yes. So, well, that was an example of how lucky I am. As it happened, our Bolivian casting director, Rodrigo Bayot, had a family connection to Casa Royale, one of the producers of Singani in Bolivia. As it turns out, Casa Royale has a very interesting history regarding Singani. It's a 4th generation family-owned business. The original generation in 1925 was the first to industrialize the production of Singani. Prior to 1925, it was being made on a sort of ad hoc basis, and people were selling it at markets, and the great-great-grandfather decided, let's turn this into a real business and make a distillery, and that's how Singani sort of became a more recognized spirit. Their process is unique in the sense that they use copper pot stills that were made in Cognac, France, and they distill it twice, and then it is set for 9 months, 8 to 9 months in steel columns to rest, and then combined with water coming down from the mountains in Terroir to get it to proof. So the Casa Royale process, as it turns out, is pretty unique among Singani producers, and I think is a lot of the reason that the profile is so smooth. I think the copper pot distillation rounds it off in a way that's really unique. And on top of that, I've met the family multiple times. I go down to.
There's got to be a level of trust. You have to believe in what these people are doing, because without them.
Well, and you're right. And also in this business, as soon as you pop up as a brand, people start doing a deep dive on, like, well, who is this company that's producing it? Like, they want to know. They're looking for, reasons to go after you if necessary. They're going to like, oh, well, did you find out that actually the way they produce this, results in X? Like, we've all seen stories of brands that have been like set back when people have done a deep dive on how they were produced. And all I can tell you is Casa Royale is the gold standard of not only Singani production, but how you want to run a company, period. Like, the people that work for Casa Royale love working at Casa Royale, and it's known that's, if you get a job there, like, this is a great place to work. These are great people. I've spent a lot of time with them. And again, it's just my good luck that I was exposed to the Casa Royale Singani.
It seems like there's been a lot of fortuitous events here for you. Not only having your casting director, but then knowing the folks at Casa Royale. It almost feels like, in a way, it was kind of destined to happen.
Well, it's as random and interesting as the story of the grape itself, which started in Egypt. In the Muscat of Alexandria, that's not Alexandria, Virginia, that's Egypt. So it goes from Egypt to Spain, into Bolivia and then all the way down to the southern part of Bolivia to find what I think is this particular grape's best expression. Like, that's a very random sequence of events.
And the altitude and the terroir is going to play a huge role in that, correct?
It's a terrible place to grow anything. I'm telling you, like, it's very unforgiving. And in fact, what they had to do, what Casa Royale had to do, was consult with agronomists in South Africa and the Middle East to talk about, well, how do we grow something here? Like, this is very unforgiving terroir. Like, how do we deal with it?
Is it a rocky terrain? Like, what is it about the?
It is. It's very dry. It's very rocky. 10,000 years ago, it was underwater, and when the water left, it took all the minerals with it. Gotcha. So the grape really has to struggle, and the result is that the skin becomes thicker, and that's where the aromatics are. But they had to figure out how they had to literally resculpt the terrain to deal with the irrigation in order to allow these grapes to survive. So it's hard to make Singani. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. And I think that's part of the reason why the result is so unique.
It's easy to drink it. I'll say that.
Well, I think it's a good quality in a spirit. Yeah.
So we got a bunch of questions coming in here. Jeremy Frost on Instagram he said he wants to watch a Soderbergh movie with a glass of Singani 63. What's your recommendation for the movie to pair with it?
Okay, can you interact with him, or do I have to answer?
I mean, he's watching. You can talk to him right now. Yeah, there you go.
Look, I got to go with Out of Sight. I've got to go with Out of Sight because it's one of the few things that I've made that I would not touch.
There's not. So a lot of times when you go back and you watch a film.
Well, I don't go back and watch them, but
if you did, I would have changed this.
Yeah, it's one of the few things I've made that I really wouldn't touch anything. And so maybe he's seen it before, maybe he hasn't. But
okay. Jeremy Frost.
If he watches Out of Sight and doesn't like it, he should just delete me from his contacts.
Another one we got here is, okay, here's a question from Kevin Eaches. Says, Singani's not something I'm particularly familiar with. Steven, do you prefer to drink it straight, or would you prefer it in a cocktail?
I drink it on the rocks. That's my favorite way to drink it. I can drink it neat, and it works neat. But I find that putting it on the rock is like the perfect, it just puts it right in a.
Or you can just do what I'm doing.
But I want to warn this. I want to warn everybody.
Yeah.
Very fast acting.
Oh, now you tell me.
Yeah.
I still got another half hour left. No.
But if you drink it straight, my personal experience is the next day, you're not hurting.
You're going to be fine.
That was another appeal while we were shooting Che, was that everybody that was drinking it at night, the next day, they were like, wow, I feel fine. And that just amped up the desire to get more of it. Yeah.
Alan Jensen on YouTube, this is a comment, says, Singani sounds like a great character name for a bad guy in one of Steven's movies. That's it.
He's right.
That's got to happen. That has to happen.
Right. He's totally right. Okay. That's a good note. I'm gonna file that away.
And we have we got a question here from Steve from Collider.com who he's asking if you could tease your future projects. Oh, I can tease it for you. Steven's going to be in his living room later, and then he's going to go to his bedroom, and then tomorrow he's going to get up and he's going to do the same thing over and over and over. No, go ahead. Tease your future projects.
All right. I got a big one for you. This is a big one. During the lockdown, I've done more sustained writing than I've done since the summer of 1985. And it's worth noting that I never considered myself a writer. I wrote as a way to get into the business, because nobody can stop you from sitting down in front of a keyboard and writing. And so I felt I grew up in a suburban subdivision in Baton Rouge. I had no connections to the film industry at all. And I just felt if I write, I may write something that somebody sees and reads and wants to make. So when the lockdown happened here in New York, in order to stay organized and sane, I decided I'm gonna write. Like I've got to go back to writing. So within the first 6 or 7 weeks of the lockdown, I finished 3 different screenplays. One of them was a rewrite, one of them was an original, and one of them was an adaptation of a novel that I've been wanting to do. The original was a sequel to Sex, Lies, and Videotape. It was an idea that had been circling for a while, and I felt like I came up with a way to get back in. And so I wrote it, and I want to make it.
Wow. That's such a great part of your story is you did Sex, Lies, and Videotape. How old were you when that movie came out?
26.
And it won, right? Cannes Film Festival.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. So you come out with your first movie, and suddenly you've got this incredible amount of success. Was there obviously the good parts of that are pretty obvious, but was there a downside to that coming out of the gate that strong?
Not in my mind.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, only that I didn't take it as an indication of anything other than being in the right place at the right time. And that it would provide opportunities for me going forward. So I didn't look at it as any kind of objective judgment on the movie. I was just looking at it as like, wow, we got really lucky. We weren't supposed to get into competition. We were actually in another category in the festival, and a movie dropped out and they moved us into competition. So this was all, in my mind, just a really weird, lucky thing that happened. But I also knew, okay, this will enable me to make another movie, and that potentially there's money in Europe to make a movie, because Cannes at that time, had a very outsized influence in Europe. And so, no, in my mind, there was no downside. Did I feel like I deserved to be on the list of other Palme d'Or winners that I loved and had been influenced by? No, but I wasn't on the jury, and that wasn't my fault.
What year was that? Do you remember?
89.
And then I'm really good. I mean, Kafka, I think you did.
After that, yeah.
And Out of Sight wasn't too long after that. Right?
No, it was a while. It was 98. I
had that stretch. It was like Out of Sight. I think Aaron Brockovich was right in there.
That was Out of Sight, The Limey, Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, The First Oceans. That was a good run. But in between Sex, Lies, and Out of Sight, there was a lot of experimentation and a lot of failure. And today, a young filmmaker today wouldn't have the luxury of making 5 movies in a row that people didn't like and didn't go to see, and then still be given the opportunity to make Out of Sight. That doesn't exist anymore. I was very lucky.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think luck's part of it, but I also think you've done a lot to earn it, man. And we got a bunch of questions, so I'm trying to get here. We'll go to that one later because that's going to lead into something else I want to talk about. Okay, so we got one here from Steve at Collider that says, how has the quarantine affected your insane list of things you've watched this year?
It's going to be a big list.
Okay.
I've been watching a lot. While I've been trying to write, I've also been watching a lot of stuff. And so, it's going to be a long list. this year. But I have the luxury of being able to watch and read things, and not be under the kind of duress that a lot of people right now are under. So I'm trying to take advantage of that by broadening my horizons. But as we know, there's just too much stuff. Like there's just too much stuff to watch. So my way of deciding is very haphazard. Like it's totally from
You know
one.
what there isn't, though? You know what there isn't, Steven? There isn't another season of The Nick. And we've talked about this off the air. Steven did a show called The Nick, which I freaking love that show, man, with Clive Owen. And it was such a great show. And you did what, 2 or 3 seasons?
2 seasons, yeah.
2 seasons. Sorry, I know it's a sore point for you, but I wanted to stop it.
It's not a sore point because I love doing it, and for anybody who's got 20 hours to spare,
absolutely go watch that show. But
sitting there,
there be more. There needs to be more.
But no, I loved making that show. It was
such a great show.
I'm very, very happy with that. That was fun.
I'd have to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. We talked about it earlier. I alluded to it in the intro. Steven made a movie called Contagion, which tracks the spread of a lethal virus from China that sweeps the world. And obviously, it's eerie how much that movie seems to be about life as we know it right now. I went back and watched the movie, and I think what's incredible is how much there's so many reminders in that film of not only what a social species we are, but how vulnerable a species we are. And to see it now playing out has got to be surreal for you.
Yeah, it's been weird in the ways that it's tracked with, what epidemiologists told us 10 years ago would be the most likely scenario for a new pandemic. Like in that regard, it was not surprising. What's been fascinating is to watch the reaction to this virus emerging. And I hope the good news is this will get solved. I've met the people that are responsible for trying to figure this stuff out. And I can and some of them I'm still working with today as I try to coordinate the Directors Guild task force to how to get the movie industry back to work. So I'm in contact with a lot of the people we worked with on Contagion, and I can tell you right now, this will get solved. Like this will get solved. I've met these people. I've worked with them. They're very smart. And this will get solved. The key is to sort of manage expectations about how that's going to get solved and when it's going to get solved. And so I know that there's, in terms of the entertainment industry, I know there's a way to get people back to work safely. And it's really going to become a matter of resources. I'm hoping that as time goes by, the availability of testing will become, will cease to become an issue. You know what I mean? That scarcity will go away. Like that's going to be the key is when we can use testing so that people can confirm, that they're not sick and they're not spreading. When you test negative, you have to remember, people have to remember, when you test negative, that means you're not spreading it. It doesn't mean you're not getting it.
Sure.
And that's where the mask thing comes into play. And for people who downplay that, the mask,
nobody that matters is doing
the
that.
The mask thing works. Like they did studies during SARS to show the effect that it has with just a simple mask. It does 2 things. It keeps you from spewing it,
Yep.
But it also makes you conscious of how it spreads, which is, this is how it spreads. You touch your face. That's it. It enters through your mouth, your nose, and your eyes, period. So if you're more conscious of that, and you realize, before I touch, don't touch my face, don't touch myself above the neck, and before I do, wash my hands, you're going to be fine. That's literally how it spreads. So, yeah, it's been interesting to see something that all the virologists and epidemiologists told us would start in a wet market in Asia and probably involve a bat. Like, it was kind of weird to see that. All of them said that, and it's been weird to see that play out exactly.
Crazy. We got let me see, oh man, so many here. What is the book adaptation you're working on? And would you recommend the author's works to read during quarantine?
Yes. The book adaptation that I'm working on is a novel called City of the Sun that was written by David Levine, who is part of the writing, producing, directing duo Koppelman and Levine. And David has written a series of crime novels with a central character called Frank Bear, an ex-cop who's become a detective. And I asked David some years ago if I could adapt the first of the 4 novels that he wrote around this character, City of the Sun. And he said, sure. And I started it and then stopped. And then during the lockdown, started over again and finished it. So we'll see what happens now. But it's a great book. I would encourage anybody, if they read the first book, they're going to want to read the rest of them. This is a great character that David created. So, I'm happy that I've been able to push this downfield a little bit.
Steve at Collider wants to know, how did you get involved in Bill and Ted, the latest Bill and Ted movie?
Well, if he works at Collider, he should be able to reverse engineer this. Ed Solomon wrote Mosaic, which was a limited series that I did for HBO and was also an interactive app. And when Ed and I started working on Mosaic, I knew, of course, that he had Bill and Ted in his past. And one day we were talking, he's like, we wrote a third Bill and Ted movie. And I said, well, great. Like, what's going on with that? Can I read it? And I read it. And I was just part of a group of people, including, Scott Kruth, the original producer, and Keanu and Alex, that really wanted to see this happen. So my role was more as cheerleader than anything. The companies that own the rights to make a sequel, I called them up and said, this script's hilarious. Why aren't we doing this? We found a fantastic director, Dean Pariseau, who I've known for a long time. And the short version is Galaxy Quest, which is a masterpiece.
Yes.
And so I've seen it. It's really good. And we're almost done. And I feel like it's the perfect movie for people who want to feel better about what's happening right now.
How will it come out in theaters, or is it going to be something that's going to go directly to?
Well, look, it was supposed to come out in August, in theaters all over the world. We're trying to figure out what's going on now, because as you and I discussed, is there a movie business when a theater can only be 1/3 full? That's a question that nobody is able to answer yet. And it's a question I'm sure Chris Nolan is really grappling with right now.
Sure. A reminder to everybody out there that we are giving away, Steven is giving away from his own personal collection, a beautiful poster, French poster for 2001, A Space Odyssey. It's a big thing. he's giving it away out of the kindness of his heart. And the way to win that prize is to write in the comment section the 5 best characters, not actors, but characters in a Steven Soderbergh movie. And that will be chosen by a team of specialists will come in, epidemiologists that Steven knows, and they will pick it. No, but yeah, get those in. We're going to be doing that at the end of the show, which is coming up, sadly, somewhat soon. Are you, let me see a bunch of questions here. Rowan on Instagram wants to know, do you prefer making the small Schizopolis, Bubble, Girlfriend Experience films, or your big Hollywood films?
That's funny. I think there's a really common perception that a small movie is for me and a big movie is for them. And that's really not true. I don't think anybody that makes things would actually sort of ascribe to that kind of split. All I can say is in my case, they're all for me. They're all for me. Like I make them all for me. And
your big movies feel small too. And I mean that in a good way. Like a movie like Traffic, it's a real story. It's a big movie. It's a real story. Magic Mike's a big movie. It's a real story. It's the kind of stories you would typically say an indie film. To me, your big movies feel like indie films because they're rooted in.
I mean, I'm like the audience. What is the story? What is the story? I just want to know what the story is. And so sometimes you get attracted to something story-wise that can be executed at a certain small level. And sometimes you get attracted to a story that if you're going to tell it properly needs more resources. So I'm as invested as a filmmaker in Ocean's 11 as I am in Bubble. They're just doing very different things, and I recognize that they appeal to a very different set of eyeballs. But my investment when I'm doing them is identical.
Okay. Speaking of making movies, Ted Hauser on Facebook says he lives in Detroit, and he was looking forward to you shooting your next film there. What was that going to be?
Killswitch. We were 2 weeks from shooting.
So you don't have any idea now if that's.
Look, I want to get back there. This was a movie that I've been working on for a long time. It's a great script. We had a great cast together. It's a period crime film set in 1955.
Who was going to be in it? Who's going to be in it?
Well, it was written for Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, Sebastian Stan, John Hamm, Ray Liotta, George Clooney, Amy Seimetz, Frankie Shaw. Like I'm missing a lot of people that will be angry. But the point is, we were 2 weeks out when we got shut down. I'm very anxious. The minute that it is safe it's a period film. So I think a lot of the films initially in the COVID world their scale is gonna be contained so that you can sort of keep testing people and make sure that everybody's safe. This was kind of the not cool thing to start with. It's a period film, extras, it's got, the scale of it is big. And so, look, I was, we shot out of sight in Detroit with Don and George. I was really excited about coming back. We're going to come back. We're just trying to figure out when, but it will, if he's patient, we'll see him there.
All right. Well, that's going to happen there. Ted, keep an eye out for Steven. Steve at Collider, man, he's firing off the questions. He wants to know what's your next creative frontier? So you've shot on iPhones. What are you going to do next? Is there something coming in terms of from the technical side that you've got coming up that?
Well, I certainly have a feeling that a lot of the movie submissions to festivals in the fall and early next year are going to be like Zoom related.
Sure.
And all I can say is good luck with that. I don't have a good idea that can be executed in this format, but I have a small brain. But I think, you know, what all of this, you know, reveals to us, while we're all kind of like a lot of us are stuck at home, is how much stories matter to us, like how wired we are to narrative, and how you could, if you said to somebody, okay, you're going to have to stay, you know, in this one space for a prolonged period of time, but you're not allowed to talk to anyone, you're not allowed to read anything, you're not allowed to watch anything, you're not allowed to listen to anything, because music is also a form of narrative. That would be unendurable. It would be unendurable. It really would. For you to be completely isolated from another voice, anyone's voice, would be unendurable. I would find it unendurable. And so it's been interesting to watch this scenario play out and realize how important stories are to people, and how stories keep them going and keep them believing in tomorrow. You know, like that's been cool, and that's been really inspiring. And I hope that sticks. I hope that when we're on the other side of this, and we will get on the other side of this at some point, that people remember stories as not something that just fills your time when you're not working. That stories are how we learn things, and how we navigate the world. So this has just been a really intense clinic in how important stories are.
Well, and I think a lot of people are going to come out of this, as you said, with that, because the simple fact is, as bad as it's been, most people are home and they've got their Netflix and their Hulu and and there is something comforting about knowing that there's a vast world of stories that we're all kind of watching. You know, we're all watching it on our TVs. My internet went out early on in this for about a day or two, and I equated it to, there was this classic episode of The Twilight Zone, if you remember, where Burgess Meredith is the last surviving person on Earth, and all he wants to do is read books, and he's so happy because he's got all the books in the world are there, and and his glasses fall off and they break.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. I'm like, no, where's my internet? Because it's all there. This is going to be the thing that's going to get me through. And I think it has for so many people. I mean, I see people constantly talking on social media. What are you watching now? How is that? Oh, it made me feel great. It's awesome. It's this. And it's been without that, I think you're right, Steven, this would be unendurable for a lot of people.
Well, and also I have to say, I was somebody prior to this that was really down on Skype and all sort of interactions that are like the one that we're having now. I was really down on that. I'm like, no, we can do a phone call, we can do a conference call. And this has made me realize something which is really obvious, which is we're a species that's driven by not only narrative, but looking into the eyes of the person that we're interacting with to gauge what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of now become very enamored of what you and I are doing right now, because I can see you, and that matters. Like, I can see that you're listening, I can see that you're not doing something else, Like that matters. Like it matters.
Well, and you actually don't have to be with me in person too. I got to figure that's it. You're like, this is the perfect level of Dan Dunn right here. We can see each other, but I don't have to make up an excuse to leave the bar. I don't have to,
yeah. But to be fair, you're not unpleasant to be in a room with, but that was a new thing for me because, like I said, all this technology to me was like, oh, Jesus Christ, really? Do we need to have a call where I need to see you? And now I'm finding like it makes me feel better. Like it really does. And so I've done as they say in Logan Lucky, I've done a total 360 on this.
Love it. And another great movie of Steven's, by the way. And that sort of brings us to this moment where I want to, I got somebody begging. You can't, I can't somebody beg during
begging on the internet. Yeah. Begging
for this question to be asked. And his name's Mike Krumloff. Mike, you don't have to beg. We love you, brother. Well, I'll ask the question to Steven. How come nobody's asking me questions? Nobody gives a shit about me. Fine, Mike Krumloff.
Coming.
You've done a lot of production in the city and surrounding area of Chicago, Illinois. Wondering if you could say what it is that you love about Chicago.
Wow, what a great city. It's funny, we've gone back there multiple times because of how much I like Chicago. It's not only visually a great city to shoot, but it's a very friendly city to shoot. It's got really experienced crew. Like, you can go there and pick up all the people that you need locally to do, the job that needs to be done. And I really feel like if you're a big city and you want legitimacy as a big city, you have to have public transit that young professionals take. You know what I mean? Like that to me is the Well, this is the problem. This is the problem in LA. Like, I really feel like the measure of a truly great metropolitan city is the fact that young professionals take public transit to go from home to work. That to me, like that's the way it should work. Now, Los Angeles has problems in terms of geography. It's just so spread out. It's really difficult to make that happen. But I have to say, I'm very enamored of cities like Chicago that do this great blend of, it's aesthetically, it's a really beautiful city, and public transit seems to work, which is one of my metrics, and a incredible creative community. The like Chicago, the creative work that comes out of Chicago is, goes everywhere, whether it's, theater, especially comedy, like you can make an argument that like the comedy that we appreciate now had its roots in Second City, in Chicago.
Carell, Chris Farley.
No, but going back even into the 50s, Nichols and May.
Yes,
were in Chicago, and the Compass Theater, and then Second City. Like Chicago cultural, and here's another thing I like about Chicago. When I'm there, they don't brag. They don't brag.
Humble folk.
Well, they're just like, we're just doing what we're doing. Like they don't brag. They don't like, we're just doing what we're doing. We like Chicago. We're here. We do like, that was the other thing that impressed me is like, they're just chill. They're just like, we're Chicago. We don't have to shout. If you like it, great. Like I'm there a lot.
And it's a great city to make a documentary about their basketball team. That was a hell of a documentary.
Well, that was really fascinating. And there's been a lot of discussion about Michael's leadership approach.
Let me ask you that. because what Steven's alluding to here is the fact that Michael Jordan, his production company, right? That's what you're talking about, was involved in the documentary about Michael Jordan. What are your personal feelings about Ken Burns? Ken Burns had the most famous American documentarian, had a real problem with that. What's your take on it?
Well, I imagine Ken Burns watching Michael Jordan, watching an interview that somebody had done prior, talking about Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan gets to see it and react to it. I would imagine Ken Burns' head is just like exploding. He's just going like, you're not allowed to do that. I get that. But I also think people understand, or I think people understand, the context in which this documentary was made, and that there is absolutely a bargain that is made between access and the dark place that you might go if you didn't have access.
Sure.
But on balance, am I glad that documentary was made? Absolutely.
I mean, it was
like I was looking for places to rip it so I could see it before it aired. Like, I was way into this.
It's 10 hours that I'm glad I spent watching. I mean, I could have done a couple more. I could have done a couple more episodes.
Absolutely. So I think Ken Burns makes a legitimate point, but I also that sort of implies that there's only one way to do this, and I don't think there's only one way to do this. I think people are smart enough to factor in this day and age, the idea that, like, yeah, well, if Michael's involved, you're going to get a lot of shit that you wouldn't get if he wasn't.
Absolutely.
But they're not going to go to some places if he is. And I'm like, on balance, I'll take it.
My favorite is when you did mention when they would show Michael the interviews, because there's never a moment when you think Michael's going to see the interview and go, oh, well, that's a valid point. You can see him watching it going, fuck this guy, right? Like he's like, how am I going to tell? First the smirk comes and he goes, no,
look, and that's what Ken Burns has an issue with. That is a total violation of the understood, quote unquote, rules of a documentary. Now, and I'm a big believer in a certain kind of leadership. And there have been a lot of articles written about, like, well, his leadership style and the fact that he's attacking people all the time and criticizing them and belittling them. And I go, yes, generally speaking, that's not a good leadership style. However, there are a couple things here that are literally the exceptions that prove the rule. One is you're dealing with a team sport that is unique in its ability to have a single player have an outsized influence.
Completely.
There's no other team sport in which one player can dominate the way they do in basketball.
Not even close. Yeah, not even close. Yeah.
So that's number one. The second is he is therefore able to continually show other people this is how it should work. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing it right, because he always did it right. And what he was asking, what came through was what he was saying was, look, I know you're not me, but you need to work as hard as me.
Exactly.
Like, whatever you want to say about the guy, nobody ever said he was lazy. Like, everybody said, I've never seen somebody work that hard. And that is one of the key components of being a leader, is leading by example. And all he was asking was, look, if you're not me in terms of raw talent, what I demand of you is to work as hard as I do. And that's fair. That's fair. Can you be nice about that? I think the Golden State Warriors under Steve Kerr proved you can have a really great team and not have an environment that's that hostile.
Well, and probably because Steve Kerr took a lot out of that experience.
Absolutely.
And I think was able to sort of maybe distill the best parts of what Jordan could bring and apply it.
But they've not won 6.
No, they have not. We got one more question, then we're going to get to the contest winners. And this question, I might even take this question. It's for you, Steven, but I might field it. It says, it's from Samuel on YouTube. He says, Steven, what advice would you give to your 21-year-old self? Can I take this one?
Yeah, please.
Someday, this is the advice, someday, many, many years in the future, you're going to be doing a live stream on Flaviar, and you might be tempted to dress up like Dale Unser, what's the race car drivers? Dale Earnhardt Jr. Don't do it. That would be the advice. No, I'm kidding. I love this. What do we got here?
Okay, so in Logan Lucky,
Yes.
Sebastian Stan played a character named Dayton White. When the movie was over, even before it was over, shooting, I made it clear to Ellen Mirajnik, our costume designer, that comes to me. I don't want Sebastian Stan wearing this outfit anymore. This is going to be mine. I've never worn it until now. It's been hanging in my closet, literally, in a clear plastic bag. And I busted it out today because I'm like, it's time.
An amazing piece of paper.
Gas pedal. It's time to gas pedal.
Yeah, it's incredible. So let's go now. This is the big moment. So
here we go.
Steven, should we decide ahead of time? So do we want to give just the whole shebang? You get the Flaviar membership and the poster for this?
Well, it's tough because they're both big. And I think we should decide after we've gotten the info. And if somebody has doubled down and won twice, then that's fine. But if there's a second place, let's leave ourselves the option.
So you've got a pretty good idea in your head of who it's going to be, and
well, let's put it this way: there are a couple names that if I hear that are not obvious, that if I hear immediately, I'm going there. So I'm very curious to hear what we got.
All right. So if you need to, just talk to Keith, our director, and say, make a note on that one if you need to. So here's a couple of them we got here. So Sean Pierce, let me just raise a toast, by the way, with the Singani. I really appreciate having you on, man.
I'm so sorry we're not in the same room, but salute.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sean Pierce. Your big moment, Sean. Here's his 5. Danny Ocean, Jack Foley, Aaron Brockovich, Magic Mike, Mike Whitaker. Who's Mike Whitaker? I don't know who that is.
Mark Whitaker.
Who's that from?
That's from The Informant.
Okay, getting a little. All right, now we got Paula Fiddler Lucas, Aaron Brockovich, Danny Ocean, Cynthia Bishop, Javier Rodriguez, Graham Dalton.
Okay.
Paula Fiddler Lucas, Ariana Topke, Aaron. Oh, just going first names here. Ariana. She's so familiar with the characters. It's just Aaron, Danny, Logan, Shay, and Mitch.
What?
Mitch. Dude, she stumped you. Winner.
Yeah, you did.
She's such an obscure fan, she named a character that you don't even remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Ariana, if you can explain who Mitch is, write in right away and let us know. Okay. Alex Lupol.
She outed me.
Wilson from the Limey.
Yeah.
Joe Bang. Aaron Brockovich. Che Guevara. Kafka.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Keegan Shepard. Aaron Brockovich. Ruben Tishkoff. Is that Elliot Gould?
Yep.
Oh my God, that has to be there.
That's a good one.
I don't want to. Graham Dalton, Jurgen Mosak, right?
Good, yes.
And Basher from Ocean's 11. Okay. Miriam S says Frank Catton, Terry Benedict, Aaron Brockovich. Aaron Brockovich is on everybody's. Everybody remember? I mean, it's Julia Roberts, man. I actually think Julia Roberts in Ocean's 11 is one of her great characters too.
Look, she's Julia. Come on.
I mean, okay, yeah. All right. Miriam Matz, Frank Catton, Terry Benedict, Aaron Brockovich, Mark Whitaker, and Joe Bang.
Okay.
Right? Bossy Baker, Martha from Bubble.
Wow.
Dr. Chris Kelvin, Elmo Oxygen, Graham Dalton, and Liberace. We forget Liberace. Beyond the Candelabra was huge, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. That was Bossy Baker. Christopher Blade says Aaron Brockovich, Jack Foley, Dallas from Magic Mike. That's Matthew McConaughey. Danny Ocean, and Terry Benedict. Okay. And we got two more. Paul Rackman on Facebook says,
I know Paul.
Fletcher Munson.
That's fair.
Liberace, Douglas Chino, out of sight, and Big Dick Ritchie, Magic Mike. And finally, Eddie Bostick on Facebook says Aaron Brockovich, Magic Mike, Ellis Cheever, Graham, and Jack Foley. Bam.
Okay.
All right. So now we got our entries. What do you want to do?
We're gonna do two. I think we're gonna do this, and yeah, there's got to be a first.
Wait. Hold 1 second, Stephen. Ariana said Mitch is Mitch M. Hoff.
Got it.
Who's that?
That's Matt Damon.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. So what do you want to do? It's your game.
I'm going to do first place and second place.
So second place will go Flaviar membership. Not knocking Flaviar.
No. Second place is Flaviar membership, and we will ship the Flaviar Advent to this person.
Wow. Okay.
This is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen anybody create, the Flaviar Advent calendar with spirits. I'm happy to say Singani 63 made its way in here. I didn't know it was going to, but like this is awesome, this thing.
So you're getting that and the Flaviar membership, and this is for our second place winner. Do you need me to remind you of anything, or you kind of have an idea?
No. So the second place winner is Bashar Tar. Whoever picked Bashar Tar.
Okay, Keith, can you tell me who that is? I don't want to go through this whole list.
That's Don Cheadle in the Oceans series.
So Keith, whose answer was that? Let us know. Second place. And while we wait for Keith to come through before we announce our big winner, I also want to tell you about something that's cool that's going to happen right after this on Flaviar's YouTube channel. Steven made a series of short films called Stir Crazy. And right after the show, we're going to be airing on Flaviar's channel the first in a series of interviews he did with some of the best bartenders in the U.S. The first episode is Alex Day, friend of Steven's, friend of mine, co-founder of Death & Co., an iconic bar in New York City, and an amazing person, amazing bartender. And they're just 4 to 5 minute shorts, and Steven gets into it. They make a cocktail. They talk a little bit about cocktail theory, geek out a little bit. And they're going to be new episodes airing every Tuesday on Flaviar's channel as well. And then also a reminder, every Thursday, I'm here doing this. Hopefully we get to do another one with Mr. Soderbergh at some point, because this has been way too much fun now. So the person
winner
was that
the winner. We ready for the winner?
Number 2, drum roll, Keegan Shepard wins the second place with Aaron Brockovich, Ruben Tishkoff, Graham Dalton, Jurgen Masick, and Bashar from Ocean's 11. You have won the Flaviar quarterly membership, and you have won the Spirits of the World thing. Maybe Steven will sign it or something.
I will absolutely sign it.
He'll sign it for you. Look, boom. Keegan, you just got better. And now this is the big moment. And can I just say this right up front, Steven? I'm jealous because when I saw this, you sent me a photo earlier, the full thing, you were holding it up, and it's big, right? This is big.
It's huge. It's huge. It's in perfect condition. Like I said, it's linen backed. It's ready to be framed. Put up in your house.
Awesome prize. And I can't even believe you're giving this away. And so who is the lucky winner of this?
Martha in Bubble.
Who said Martha in Bubble, Keith? Let us know who that is. whoever put Martha and Bubble on their list is the winner of this thing. And let's see if, man, it's just, look at that. Wow. That's just, I got the winner. I got it right here. The winner is Bossy, B-O-S-S-I, like Bossy. Bossy Baker on YouTube said Martha from Bubble, Dr. Chris Kelvin, Elmo Oxygen, Graham Dalton, and Liberace. And for your efforts, Bossy Baker, you've won this incredible prize from Mr. Steven Soderbergh. How about?
I think they'll be happy, and they were very creative, so good on them.
And I feel like I've won somehow because I still have this left. And I'm going to tell you, Steven, I'm actually escaping LA. I'm going to be leaving. I'm going out to Palm Springs.
Oh, wow.
A friend has a place out there. I'm going to go chill out, get away, sit by the pool. And I mean this when I say having this is fantastic because I can make it with so many things. There's so many, I'm going to be bringing fruit and all kinds of stuff out there. And I just wish I had another bottle. But
no, it's your one bottle bar.
This is all I get. Anything you want to add, my friend?
No, only that, you and I have been talking for a while, and it's been great to finally sort of memorialize a conversation. And, I'm really, Flaviar has been such a great supporter, but like on their own, like we didn't, they just sort of jumped on the Singani bandwagon. And as soon as we found out that they had, we were all in. They've been so wonderful. And I'm not somebody who likes being in front of a camera a lot, but when we talked about how this all would work, I said, absolutely, let's do it. Like, for me, I was solving, two things at the same time. I wanted to shout out to Flaviar, and I wanted to, sort of memorialize the conversations that you and I have been having. And so for me, this has been really fun.
Fantastic, man. And when the day comes, and I think, again, everybody out there has to take solace in what Steven said earlier, is that we are going to get through this. There is a way out. There are some really smart people right now working on a way out of this for us. And no matter how hard it seems right now, we're going to get through it. And my friend, we were going to do this before it happened. We're going to go around. I'm sort of acting like Steven's agent out here in Hollywood. I was going to all my different bars out here and going, oh, you got to try Singani. You got to try Singani. And we were going to go around and hit a bunch of places where I live in Venice and all around LA. And we will do that. Yeah. And I really hope that's going to happen before the year's out, and that we're all going to get back to it. But in the meantime, I recommend everybody out there, go to Flaviar, get yourself some Singani 63. It is, and by the way, the 63 is not really the decibel level I screamed at, even though that scene freaked me the hell out. 63, I believe, is the year you were born.
It is. I tell people it's my lucky number, but yeah, that's the year I was sort of forced on the world.
Yeah. We're glad to have you, man. And on behalf of Flaviar and Steven Soderbergh, I want to thank all of you for taking the longest time we've had. This is the longest one we've done, but it doesn't feel like that by any means. So thank you all for joining us, and see you next Thursday.
Good to see you, Dan.
You too, Steven.